this walk. It's a short walk, and we are covering two main sites. The area you see around you, and after this the Begumpur Masjid, the Begumpur Mosque. I'll start with an introduction, a background in terms of what to expect here, what we're going to look at, and then we'll look at the specific, we'll talk more about the specific monuments here. Tughlaqs are a dynasty which everyone here has heard about. We've all studied about it. We're forced to study about it in our schools. And all of you must have heard stories, gossip, all kinds of stuff about, and must have had your own opinions about the Tughlaqs. So you're most welcome to share them here. Any questions, any comments, anything you're more than welcome. And this little girl you see here, she happens to know more about the Tughlaqs than I do. So I would be very, very happy if you direct all your difficult questions towards her. Yeah. Her intellectual level is much higher than mine. Yeah. And she keeps telling the taxiwalas that he's at the wrong monument and should take her to the right place. So she's very good. All right. We'll finish the walk in about 2 hours' time, and there's food at the end. So and chai, of course. Nice warm tea. In terms of a background to Delhi and this place specifically, you all know Delhi has seen many, many capital cities. Yeah, people count anywhere up to 15 capital cities within the Delhi region, and this area is a capital city from the 14th century, built by the Tughlaqs. Now, Tughlaqs, like I said, are a fairly well-known dynasty, and there are three principal rulers, three main fellows who ended up making a good name for themselves within the Tughlaq lineage. There is Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad Tughlaq, and Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So just to make it easy, you can refer to them as 1, 2 and 3, Tughlaq 1, 2 and 3, yeah? Don't really have to remember the names. The site we are concerned with here, Jahaanpanaah and the Begumpur Masjid, we'll be discussing two people, Tughlaq 2 and Tughlaq 3. So it's Muhammad Tughlaq and his successor Firoz Shah. There were other Tughlaqs after him as well, but they didn't end up making a great mark on history, so nobody remembers their names, even I don't. So if you Google them, you probably might find a few more names after Firoz Shah, but really nobody takes them very seriously. So it's again first three chaps we are concerned with here. The first guy, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, is the founder of Tughlaqabad Fort. Many of you have been there with us on walks there, and it's a massive, massive fortress on the Mehrauli Badarpur road. So he's the founder of that city. He's the first Tughlaq king. Now his son, Tughlaq II, Muhammad, killed off his father and acquired the throne after him. And it is said that he was extremely uncomfortable living in his father's capital. Probably the guilt just didn't allow him a comfortable stay there. So he decided to create a new capital city for himself. So for a while he was around Tughlaqabad, but later he decided to create a new capital city for himself, and this is the area he chose. So he created a new palace area for himself, and in addition he created a boundary wall around the former existing capital cities of Delhi. So before the Tughlaqs, there had been other people who had been ruling from Delhi, mostly from the Mehrauli area where you have the Qutub Minar today, and also the Siri Fort area, which is known for its sports complex and the auditorium today. Yeah. So this is mostly what today we know as the South Delhi area. Malviya Nagar, Saket, yeah, this is the region we are talking about. And he created a boundary wall around all these former sites. So enclosing them in one single unit, and then put an additional unit which was the new palace area which he built. And this is the new palace area where we are standing in, this site. This whole city, he called it Jahaanpanaah. Literally the refuge of the world. Jahan is the world. Panah is to take shelter or to take refuge. So that's why the name Jahaanpanaah. So it's a fairly ambitious and pompous name, but that's how kings behaved, yeah. So you expect this from them. Now, within this site, there are three main parts to this site where we are looking at. One is the grave complex here, the tree and the few graves where you see. You can mostly see dogs today, but there are some graves also in between, yeah. Then that bit which rises above, that's identified as the main citadel. And the third area of interest here is the building towards the right with a dome. So I'll talk about the grave complex and the building a little later. We'll first go into the citadel complex which rises above, and from there we'll discuss these two as well. Okay? Come. But there's a lot that's unexplained. A lot we don't really know why and how of. But a lot of what we understand about and think about this site is conjecture, very good guesswork. Some information about this site is from contemporary sources. Like I said, this is the capital city. This is identified as the capital city of second Tughlaq king, Muhammad Tughlaq. And this is seen as his palace area. But as you can see, there's not much left. You go to Red Fort, there's much more there in terms of a palace area. You see a court, you see a little bit of residential apartments. So you get a fair idea of how people might have lived, this is where they worked, etc. In this case, it's just broken walls, foundations. So it gets very, very difficult to actually imagine how this place might have looked like and how did they actually work here. What sort of a building was it? If you compare it to Tughlaqabad, it's massive. It's absolutely massive, Tughlaqabad there. And compare it with this site here, this is rather puny in terms of what's left. But the little bit of idea we get about this area, one of the main sources is a chap called Ibn Battuta. Yeah? He has been recently made famous by a Bollywood song. The title song of the movie Ishqiya had Ibn Battuta in its wording, yeah. It went something like Ibn Battuta pehen ke joota, bagal mein joota, yeah. And the song, and the song itself is actually an inspiration from a Hindi poem by a poet called Sarveshwar Dayal Saxena. It's a poem for children which uses Ibn Battuta's name, yeah, and rhymes on it. So Ibn Battuta is actually a Moroccan traveler, and he travels all over West Asia, South Asia, and goes on to China and the Far East. He is here when Tughlaq II is ruling, and he stays at the court of Tughlaq II for a fairly long time and writes about his experiences. His travelogue is called Rehla. It's in Arabic, and it's a very, very interesting account. It's not an officially commissioned work, so you get a fair idea of what's happening, along with very, very personal comments, very, very personal commentary on what he sees and feels. Now, Ibn Battuta is the chap to describe this city vividly. He's probably the only fellow whose descriptions allow us to reconstruct how the city of Jahaanpanaah might have been like. So he says that Delhi at this point of time, during the time of Muhammad Tughlaq, is the largest city not only in India but the entire Islamic East. So that's a big, big statement to make. Huh? And he says that Delhi is it's a fortified city with 28 gates. All these gateways have granaries, they have big rooms, they have passages for soldiers to walk on their horses, storerooms, all of it. And you do get evidence of this, especially in Tughlaqabad. Not so much in Jahaanpanaah because there's not much left of Jahaanpanaah. But if you try and read this evidence a little back into time, you get some sort of these features, similar features in Tughlaqabad at least. So that's why we consider him fairly reliable when we are talking about this particular city. And one particular feature in the city he mentions is a place called Hazar Sutun, or the Hall of Thousand Pillars.
Hazar, what did you say?
Sutun, S-U-T-U-N.
Hazar.
Yeah. Hazar is thousand, Sutun is a hall, a pillared hall. Now, this is the public audience hall of the king. This is Tughlaq II I'm talking about. And this site where we are standing, this is where it has been identified as. Now it's all grass all around, and I know it's a little hard to imagine a hall of 1,000 pillars somewhere here. But when the grass isn't around, you can actually see pillar bases around the ground here. So it might have, yeah, this is something like that. So you can actually see square bases on the ground, where which would have acted as support for pillars, yeah, the foundation for pillars. And the Hazar Sutun is believed to have been somewhere around here, extending to the point where we have just come from, the point where we started our walk from. Now this is a public audience hall, and the word Hazar Sutun is more like an, it's you could say a generic term and a little bit of an exaggeration to indicate a very, very big hall. It didn't necessarily have 1,000 pillars. Nobody really went about counting them. But the idea is to convey the message, the impression that it's a very, very large audience hall. So there were emperors before Muhammad Tughlaq who have had Hazar Sutuns in their palaces. Now Hazar Sutun has very, very vivid descriptions in Ibn Battuta's travelogues. He says that it's not only massive, but it's all made up of wood. So the pillars which we are talking about, the 1,000 pillars which are referred here, they're all in wood, and they're profusely carved, and they have a wooden ceiling. So that's probably one of the reasons why it hasn't survived. Wood, it's very, very difficult to preserve over centuries. But that's our idea that this is where it was here. Yeah? And there's a little more here within this area which indicates that this might have been the palace area. It supports our theory that this might have been the palace area. And these are treasure pits. There are a couple of treasure pits here. Now they are full of garbage and mostly used as latrines. So we will see them, and you can see the treasure. We hold the treasure.